Markets Crypto TV presented by CoinSwitch Kuber. I'm Meloni Bhatt. So what do we do here on this show? Well, we demystify this very complex but fascinating world of cryptocurrencies, one concept, one term at a time. And today we are going to speak on NFTs. What are they? What value do they represent? Should you be buying NFTs? And what can you do with them? And I'm really pleased to say that to explain all this to us, we have with us Anirudh Rastogi, who is the founding partner at Ikigai Law, which is based in Delhi. Anirudh, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you, Meloni. My pleasure.
All right, let's get started. Anirudh, what are NFTs? What do they really mean?
All right. So NFTs, as the world is probably now beginning to realize or recognize, are known as non-fungible tokens, which essentially means anything that is not fungible, right? But what is that? So, you know, the most fungible thing or interchangeable, in other words, is probably money around us, right? Because one coin, 1 rupee, is as good or as valuable as any other coin maybe that you have or somebody else has. It doesn't matter. One coin gets you the same value for itself as any other coin, right? But as opposed to that, if you had a Victorian era coin, right, which is unique, which is rare now, is a collectible, is probably more valuable than the number printed on that coin, right? And that therefore is non-fungible, because one Victorian era coin may actually get you a lot more value than, say, a 1 rupee coin of that time or of today's time, right? And that's primarily the difference between something that is fungible and something that is non-fungible. I could give you another example. A Nike shoe is as good as the same Nike shoe you buy anywhere else in the world. But if that Nike shoe were actually worn by a star athlete in his or her winning run, would then not be fungible, because it is unique, it's rare, it has value, just like any other piece of art. It could be a painting on the wall, it could be music, it could be any other IP that is unique in nature, is then non-fungible. Now, why? Now, in the blockchain world, right, where we start talking of tokens, which is a great example of tokens that all your viewers would know of is Bitcoin, right? One Bitcoin is as valuable as any other Bitcoin, and that's the reason why it can be used as money, because it can be used to buy something of equivalent value. It doesn't matter whether you, Meloni, have a Bitcoin or I. It's the same. But imagine with the newer technology, when I can make this token something like a Bitcoin and a digital token, non-fungible in nature, that it can actually be a record of ownership to something that is unique or rare, like a painting. Now, that one digital artwork is different from another digital artwork, is different from another digital song. And that's what, when you're able to represent digitally on the blockchain something that is unique, it becomes non-fungible. And that's the beauty of this technology.
So why would I as a buyer want to buy an NFT? Is it for investment, and is it legal?
Sure. So before I come to the investability or the legality of NFT, why would somebody want to buy it, right? And that's simply because the promise of the underlying blockchain technology. What blockchain really does is essentially, it in very simple words, blockchain is like a record. It's like a notebook, right? The difference being that notebook can't be tampered with. So once you've recorded something on it, it cannot be torn off. It cannot be corrupted. It cannot be, there can't be any fraud around it, for the most part, to keep it simple. And if you were able to put Bitcoin on the, something which can be used as money on this ledger, it suddenly started changing the way people would transact money, because these transactions were uncorruptible, immutable, etc. Likewise, non-fungible tokens are also on the blockchain, which means that the record of the underlying artwork or the underlying creative work, whatever it is, whatever you store on it, is now uncorruptible, right? It can't be tampered with. So if Meloni purchases a Picasso, a digital version of the Picasso as an NFT, there's a very clear record of 3 or 4 things. One, what do you own, right? What exactly do you have? What rights do you get vis-a-vis that? Now, nobody can challenge that. That Meloni has it, that Meloni is the sole owner of it. Where did she purchase it from? And also, in fact, where did your seller purchase it from? So you can actually trace it back all the way to its origin in a way that was never possible with, physical artwork, right? Who knows whether what you have is actually a genuine piece of art, whether you actually own it, whether you purchased it from the person you claim it to be, and that person purchased it from where he or she claims to purchase it, right? Now this is all an electronic record in a way that cannot be corrupted, and that's powerful.
Right. I'm going to come to that point about knowing how do I know that my NFT is unique? We'll come to that. But okay, so now you've got me interested in an NFT, right? I want to buy it. I know that when I go to buy a piece of art, I will need to have money. How do I go about buying an NFT? What do I need?
So to buy an art, you will probably go to an art gallery, or you'll directly go to the artist, right? Likewise, you could buy an NFT from the creator, but more often than not, you will go to the gallery equivalent in the digital world, right? Which is basically these new tens of NFT marketplaces that are now popping up, right? And these marketplaces are nothing but like an Amazon where you go buy physical products. This is also an electronic marketplace. Some popular ones are Rarible, OpenSea, etc., where you can go and purchase NFTs from different creators. Now, the benefit of going to a gallery, unlike and as opposed to going to an individual artist, is that the gallery curates good artwork, and it also gives you a certain promise of authenticity. You happen to trust the gallery more given its reputation, right? And given that it has a reputation to keep. Now, likewise, these marketplaces, the NFT marketplaces, also do exactly that. Because if you were to go to the creator right away, you probably don't know what you're getting into, who you're buying from, etc. Right? So you go to a marketplace, which are making this process easier for you.
Right. Okay. So I go to a marketplace. And what do I need then at the marketplace? I will need cryptocurrency, or can I buy an NFT with regular cash? How does this work?
So really depends on what the marketplace supports. But typically we see that because these marketplaces are ultimately blockchain based, they are typically more most marketplaces actually allow users to pay in cryptocurrency like Ethereum, for example, like Ether or BTC, etc., to purchase the NFTs. But some do support and can support fiat currency as well.
Right. Now you spoke about this Picasso, right? A digital copy of the Picasso that I might be interested in. But say Picasso's made the same copy or the same design or the same artwork physically. And he's also made that copy digitally. Who owns that copy? Do I own? Who really owns that piece of art?
So it really depends on. So when you purchase any creative work, what you're purchasing typically is a right to that work. You don't end up owning the copyright holder. Typically is still the creator, unless the creator wants to part away with it, right? So what you typically, when you buy a piece of art, you buy a movie, a song, what you're really getting is a right to a certain kind of use to that IP. I'll give you an example, right? When you buy a DVD for a movie, right? You're only getting a right to display that movie in the comfort of your home. You can't commercially use it. For commercial display in a movie hall, you need a separate license, right? So what really, when you're actually giving somebody the right to an IP, you're giving a certain set of unique rights. And those rights could be different from what are giving to Anirudh to what are giving to Meloni, depending on how they want to use it. And they pay different amounts of money for that respective use. Likewise, with NFTs also, what you're really purchasing is a particular right. Now, if the artist actually gave you the right to exclusive use of that underlying creative, and that the artist will now never make another copy, for sure, you will pay accordingly for it because you're getting a better right, and that's what you'll get. But for the most part, when you buy on an NFT on the marketplace, you have to check the rights that you're getting. And most typically, the rights are not exclusive. I mean, they can be, right? But very often it will be, say, you're getting one of 100 copies and only 100 copies will be published to maintain exclusivity. Sometimes there may be no exclusivity at all and you will pay accordingly, right? So what you're getting is the right. But if I could just say one thing, that unlike when you buy a physical piece of art, in a digital, when you buy an NFT, what you make sure is that the rights that are given to you are encoded as code on that token, right? So these rights, now there is no doubt about what those rights are. And in fact, what NFT as a technology allows is, and you might have come across the term smart contract, where these contracts can automatically take effect, which is, supposedly if the right says that whenever you sell a song, right, say the distributor, whenever they sell a song, royalty should directly go to the artist. That's not possible with physical music. And you know, there's so many disputes about, pirated music where the original, the artist does not get any money for it, right? But here, if there's a self-effectuating smart contract, every time it is sold, a cut automatically goes to the artist. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do because of the digital nature of this IP now.
Okay, Anirudh, how do I figure that, this particular NFT is unique or that it has value, from, say, if I'm a collector's perspective, and maybe as someone who would be interested in it as an investment, where I want, my value to be protected and also increase over a period of time. So how would I know that this is a unique NFT or that this really will grow in value?
So the technical answer to that is you will do the same diligence that you would do when buying a physical piece of art, right? How do you make sure that the art that you're buying is authentic? One, that it was actually painted by the person who claims to have painted. That many times artwork has the number of, say 1 by 100, which means you have the first copy of 100 copies only. But how do you know that the artist did not actually create 200 copies, right? So you do diligence, and that's why you typically rely on intermediaries like galleries that you trust. Christie's you would go to because they've done the diligence for you, etc. Right? And you pay a premium for that, right? Likewise, in the NFT space, one, do your diligence. Go to a reputed intermediary, a reputed, say, marketplace, who's probably ensured some level of, some semblance of diligence, etc. Right? So for the uninitiated, I think you can only rely on these good reputed marketplaces. You can read up their terms and conditions of what kind of rights are actually on offer to you. But that's what you got to do.
So, when I buy a physical piece of art, I get certain rights to it, right? And you've spoken of it. But if you could just get in a little bit of more detail. So I get the right to display it. I have the right to sell it ahead. Now, with a digital piece, do I get the same rights or do they differ from piece to piece?
No, I mean, very technically speaking, they can change. They can differ from every single sale can be different because you can craft any kind of rights for that sale. But generally speaking, when you would go to a Rarible or when you would go to an OpenSea, which are these marketplaces, right? They will typically have these standardized suite of rights that are on offer, just to make it simpler for the purchaser. So for the most part, when you buy an NFT, you will, generally have the rights to, say, sell it on further as well, and that's why it makes for a decent investment as well, right? So mostly marketplaces will simplify it for you and provide a generalized suite of rights, but it can very much differ. I mean, if I want to sell it to you on different terms, I can do that.
Now, say I've bought an NFT of a whale. The artist then has gone and made certain changes to that whale. And, maybe one fin is aligned left and one fin is aligned right. I've got the one which is aligned right. Yeah. He puts it up and says, this is a new NFT. How do I guard against that?
Let me take this slightly differently, right? Ultimately, what are you going to pay for an artwork that has multiple copies out there in the world with very minor differences, right? I mean, if it were actually a Picasso with a left, with a left swirl of the brush and a right swirl of the brush, you might still pay a premium. That might even sell for, some kind of artistic, flavor of sorts. But mostly, generally speaking, artists also try to maintain exclusivity of their artwork. And ultimately, in the art world, you have to, and you will rely on I mean, that's the reason why certain artists sell better and sell at a premium, because their artwork over the years has proven to be better investment, because they also don't do these kind of things, right? So they have a reputation to keep. They have to maintain the value of their artwork. And smart art investors are looking out for that. Who are the creators to invest into, right? So if you're buying some, if you go to any kind of tourist destination, you will typically see the same artwork of the location, being sold off at every shop on the way, right? I mean, you go to the streets of Jaipur, you'll see the fort, the Mehrangarh fort being painted, and that same painting is available everywhere. Obviously, that painting doesn't sell for a premium for that reason, right? So I think ultimately purchasers will do their diligence. There will be certain artists who will do better to preserve the value of their artwork, and that will obviously command more, right? But having said that, if you have certain specific rights to the art that you've purchased, and those rights are violated by the artist. Say, for example, if the artist had promised in the contract that this is an exclusive piece that you alone will have, and if they paint and sell a copy of that, you obviously have a contract. The difference is it's not a paper contract, it's a digital contract, but you can enforce it in the court. Having said that, courts have obviously not dealt with too many digital contracts, and particularly blockchain-based contracts. It will take a little bit of an extra effort to take these contracts and enforce them in the court. Right, but the fundamentals of contract do preserve your right over that artwork.
Right. So then, investing in an NFT, you're saying, is legal, and I'm protected by law.
Absolutely.
Right now in India.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So this other question that I had is, if I'm an NFT artist, I've created a work of art on one blockchain. Can I replicate that on another blockchain and sell it again?
Well, you technically could do that. Whether under the law you are permitted to do that or not will depend on the rights that you have offered to the purchaser, right? If the right is to an exclusive artwork, then you shouldn't be doing it and somebody could enforce it against you. But technically nothing stops you. Just like in the physical artwork, what stops a painter to paint another copy?
I've read somewhere that NFTs are bad for the environment. What does this mean?
Sure. So let me introduce a slight nuance here. It is not NFTs, but the underlying technology that does put a drain, and the certain versions of that technology that do put a big strain on the environment, right? Because NFTs are built on certain blockchains, and depending on what blockchain you use, some blockchains are a lot more draining or have a much higher energy consumption than others. What is happening is this problem is obviously increasingly, drawing the attention of the world, and because of which technologists are creating newer blockchains which don't use as much energy, and we are already seeing that kind of transition, right? So I think my belief is this: that yes, you're right, that because NFTs are built on a certain technology that is high energy, that has a high energy consumption, there is a concern. But when something has in the nature of blockchain, cryptocurrencies like NFTs, there's so much money riding on it that there's enough of an incentive to improve the technology to solve the problems created by that. And we are already seeing that. We're already seeing a movement to blockchains which are far lower, lower energy consumption than before. You've seen that happen with cars. You've seen that happen with rockets, with SpaceX launching reusable rockets. You're seeing that with every technology, and that's the same with blockchain as well.
So then, do you see NFTs as a passing frenzy, or do you think they're here to stay?
Well, I personally feel that NFTs, the current application of NFTs to kind of digitize all kinds of art, and obviously people are going, behind it, spending a lot of money, buying, collecting all of these, etc., may or may not be a bubble, right? But the underlying technology, I do believe, has tremendous applications for retail consumers like you and I who are purchasing creative work, or for enterprises as well. And that technology will continue to be, will continue to improve, will continue to offer more and more applications, and I'm very, very, very optimistic about that. And therefore, I think what will happen is that people who are placing the right bets on the technology itself, I think will definitely significantly benefit. For the rest of the hullabaloo around this, I mean, who knows? It could be a bubble. It could possibly be not. And sometimes these bubbles also have a life of their own, right? I mean, you have bubbles, they burst, and then there's a second wave, which is far more mature, where the investors or purchasers are far more understanding of what to place your money on and not. So I think these bubbles will come and go, but the technology is promising.
Anirudh, could you give us, to sum up, 2 or 3 tips to say very serious collectors of NFT, someone like me who's interested and fascinated but doesn't know how to go about it? what should we keep in mind at the end of it? And, how do we kind of get a taste of this completely fascinating universe?
So there are two or three kinds of purchasers, I believe. There are those who would normally, even in a pre-NFT world, go to a Christie's auction or go to an art gallery in your city, spend time to diligence, and then place big money, but intelligent money behind buying something, right? If you are that kind of an investor, then you're equally well placed to go purchase digital art in the same manner. You will go to a is coming from, etc., and then take those bets. Then there are the kind of investors or purchasers who would go purchase not with big money. They'll buy physical art because they want to keep it on their walls. They actually have a sentimental value for it. And for those kind of purchasers, if you're not the kind of the entrenched, intelligent, purchaser who comes from an investment mindset, spend the money that you would actually for your emotional value of that, right? Don't splurge because you believe it's going to go up in value, because who knows, it may not, right? And then there are the third kind of purchasers, and I think that's where I fit in, is who do it for the love of what this technology represents, who believe we want to tinker with it, we want to be early adopters, and we actually believe that the price will go up not because of the underlying asset, maybe so, but also for the demand of how this technology is going to increase, right? And we believe that the value of this underlying these tokens and other digital assets are going to increase because this represents a huge technological shift. If you're that kind of an investor, and I assume that then you understand the technology, that you spent the time to understand it and to price it, then go in with that kind of mindset. So I think depending on what kind of a purchaser you are, but for the most people in the audience, I would believe, who fall in the second category, who are just purchasers who are purchasing it for sentimental value, for the joy of it. Please don't spend money that you can't afford to lose. Spend it only because you really, really kind of want it on your wall, maybe, right? And that shouldn't be $1 million, I guess.
If I buy an NFT, and this is my last question, can I will it to my heirs?
Yeah, I mean, you can. An NFT ultimately is like any other asset, just in a digital form. So you can do what you would like to do with a physical asset. You can do the same with an NFT as well.
Right. Anirudh Rastogi, thank you so very much for explaining the concept of NFTs to us. Thanks for joining us. Guys, I hope things are a bit more clear to you. Things are certainly making a lot more sense to me now. Keep watching ET Markets Crypto TV for more insights on cryptocurrencies. And we'll see you soon, shortly. Bye-bye.
My pleasure, Melody. Thank you for having me.